Welcome to Barn Tech. Today I'm in the barn with my 2009 Ford Super Duty. Last time I drove this thing, the steering was like this. So while I'm waiting on engine parts to arrive, I'm going to figure out what I need to do to tighten up the steering. So in my case, the cab is off of the frame, and that's certainly going to make it easier to video this for you guys. But the steps that I go through are the same steps that you're going to do probably with the cab on your truck. So the first step is to jack up the front of the truck. Once you've got the front of the truck jacked up, you want to rock the wheels back and forth. See, I can twist the wheels because they're off the ground. And what you're feeling for here is any slop between the wheels. And I'm not feeling it right now. Right now, it feels like the right wheel and the left wheel are moving together. While you've got the front end jacked up, it's a good time to rock the wheels back and forth and look at all of the ball joints. So we've got a couple of steering joints here. We've got the joints where the hub attaches to the axle. So look at all of these joints and make sure that there's nothing sloppy as you rock the wheel back and forth. Of course, you want to do the same thing for the other side. So I'm checking this ball joint, and the ball joint down there as I rock back and forth. And so far, everything looks tight. As you rock back and forth, you can also look at the ball joint here at the bottom of the pitman arm. And then look how the pitman arm attaches to the steering box. One thing that I noticed the week before my engine blew was that the pitman arm was very loose on the steering box. And so I had to get a wrench and tighten this up to take out all of the slack in that. But that appears to be all tight now, but that didn't fix the problem. I was reading in my Bible this morning and saw where Jesus said, "I am the true vine and my Father is the gardener. Every branch in me that bears no fruit, he cuts off, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful." I think this is a good angle to show you what I found. At first I thought it would be the rag joint because I jacked up the front of the truck and I had the steering wheel locked. And as I rocked the wheels back and forth, I saw the pitman arm moving and the steering box lower shaft moving, but the steering wheel was not moving. Now with the cab off of the truck, it's easy for me to see that the rag joint is good, but the input steering shaft is moving a lot, while the output steering shaft is not moving at all. So what that tells me is I need to tighten up my steering box. Now to do that, there is a nut on the top here that I need to loosen, and then I need to tighten in the shaft. One thing you should keep in mind as you do this is that the gearbox typically wears out first in the center of travel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the steering to the end of one of the locks. So in this case, I went hard left. Now I'm going to put my vice grips on the input shaft, and I'm going to see how loose that is. That's still just as loose as it was a minute ago. So maybe 15 degrees of travel without the wheels doing anything. Okay, so what I've done here is I've tightened this by hand until it got tight. And now I'm going to tighten the nut in place and see how it feels on the input shaft and as I turn the wheel from lock to lock. I had to turn the screwdriver sideways like this to get leverage for those last couple of tightens. And I tightened it a quarter turn at a time. But then what I found was that the steering would not go all the way through the center position. So my theory that it would be better to tighten this at one of the lock positions turns out to be wrong. The tightest spot is actually in the center of the wheel travel. So I had to loosen it back up a quarter turn at a time. And now I'm at the position where I can turn it by hand. So I'm pretty sure if I can turn it past the tight spot by hand, that it should be no problem for the power steering. So the input shaft now has about 2 or 3 degrees of slack where it did have about 15 before. So I'm going to call this a win. If you've enjoyed my video, you could hit this barn button down here and that'll subscribe you to my channel. Or if you're not ready for that kind of commitment, why don't you click one of these other videos from my channel. God bless.